Imagine walking around with, like, a literal legal force field. Say a state official tries to illegally detain you, or a local government arbitrarily shuts down your business, and you just hit a button that makes those actions bounce right off.
Right, yeah.
In Mexico, that isn't science fiction. It's an actual active constitutional safeguard called the Juicio de Amparo. So today we're doing a deep dive into exactly how citizens and businesses use this tool to fight state overreach.
Yeah, and most of us think of a constitution as this static document, something that requires a super slow, grinding judicial process to enforce.
Definitely.
But the Amparo completely flips that. It's a really aggressive mechanism designed to protect anyone, whether you're an individual or a business, whose human rights are actively being violated by an authority.
Well, when people think of constitutional law, they usually think of it as a defense against direct attacks, like, I don't know, an illegal detention.
Or an unjust tax, exactly.
Right. But the sources highlight that the Amparo is equally aggressive against state omissions. It essentially criminalizes bureaucratic inaction.
Oh, absolutely.
Like if a public hospital fails to provide your required medication, the Amparo actually forces them to act.
Right, because it addresses the reality that the state can harm you just as much by doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It ensures the Constitution operates as a living set of guarantees, not just, theoretical promises.
So it's not just a shield to block an incoming attack. It's also like a prod to force the state to do its job, like delivering healthcare.
Exactly. You aren't merely shielding yourself, you are legally compelling the state to fulfill its specific duties.
But compelling the state, or even fighting a bad law, that takes time. I mean, if a hospital denies you life-saving medication, or there's literally a wrecking ball sitting outside your building.
A trial that takes years does you absolutely no good.
Exactly.
Right, so this is why the Amparo relies so heavily on its core feature, which is the suspension.
The suspension.
Yeah, it legally halts the government act while the trial is still ongoing. It basically preserves the status quo. So if you're told to pay a ruinous, unconstitutional tax, the suspension just hits pause on the collection until the judge makes a final ruling.
Ensuring you aren't bankrupt by the time you actually win the case.
Right, exactly.
Wait, let me push back on that for a second. If anyone can hit pause on a government action before a judge even definitively rules on the core issue, doesn't that invite endless frivolous lawsuits?
Oh, definitely. People worry about that.
Like, how does the state get anything done if a business owner can just hit the freeze button on any regulation they don't like?
Well, the system anticipates that exact risk. A suspension isn't granted automatically just because you asked for one.
Oh, it's not?
No. The court evaluates whether pausing the government action would harm the public interest more than it helps the individual.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, if stopping a tax collection cripples a vital public service, the judge might deny the suspension. It's a calculated balance to prevent irreversible harm to the individual without just, paralyzing society.
Okay, that balance makes a lot of sense.
Right.
And because there are so many ways the state interacts with individuals, the process has to adapt, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The sources show the Amparo splits into two distinct tracks, so direct and indirect.
Right.
Direct Amparo seems pretty straightforward. It's handled by circuit tribunals and used exclusively to challenge final judgments that completely end a trial.
Correct. And then indirect Amparo, which is handled by district judges, is where things get highly tactical.
Highly tactical how?
Well, you use this route for unconstitutional laws or for actions happening mid-trial that cause impossible to repair damage to your substantive rights.
Substantive rights.
Yeah, meaning your fundamental life, liberty, or property rights outside the courtroom. Say a judge mid-trial orders your bank account seized. You can't wait for the final verdict.
No, of course not. You'd be ruined.
Right, so you file an indirect amparo to address that immediate, irreversible harm.
So indirect Amparo is like pulling the emergency brake mid-drive because the car is about to go off a cliff, while direct Amparo is arguing over the final destination once the car has already parked.
That is the perfect way to put it, yeah.
But who is actually arguing this out? It's not just the victim and the state in a vacuum, is it?
No, not at all. The process forces the court to consider collateral damage, which brings a very specific cast of characters into the ring.
Oh.
So you have the quejoso, which is the victim claiming the violation, and the responsible authority, the government entity accused of the overreach.
Right, the two main players.
But crucially, you also have the interested third party. So if you file an amparo to stop a municipal construction project, the private contractor hired to build it gets a seat at the table.
because their livelihood is suddenly frozen.
Exactly. And finally, you have the federal public ministry watching over the case to ensure the legal process itself isn't being abused by any party.
Wow. So if you're a business owner facing a sudden closure or a citizen denied basic public services, the Amparo isn't just some abstract legal theory.
No, it's the bedrock of Mexican civil and economic life. It functions as this great equalizer against the immense weight of the state.
Shifting the focus from simply compensating for abuses after the fact to preventing them in real time,
Yeah, it forces government authorities to constantly look over their shoulder, knowing that their actions or their failures to act can be immediately frozen and scrutinized.
which leaves us with a massive question to ponder today. If every legal system globally had an easily accessible equivalent to the Amparo, a mechanism that could instantly freeze arbitrary government action, how would that fundamentally alter the balance of power?
Would it paralyze government bureaucracy worldwide, or would it force it to perfect itself?
Think about that next time you wish you had a personal legal force field in your back pocket.